rebuild or the favorites. We here for the latest. South side or the north side, not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams. Both sides got our own rings. On the mound or the long ball, but we don't put the wrong strings. Yeah. It's that time of the year now. Wrigley or guarantees for the whole league that we hear now. New show with a new mood. Discussions and interviews. Trade rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Ivy.
Hello and welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. I'm Mitchell Kaminski, bringing you White Sox talk every week. Now, usually I would say every Wednesday, but obviously today is Thursday. I was at the greatest spectacle in racing over the weekend, making the 6-hour drive up to Indianapolis to watch the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. That was good fun. I was kind of the kiss of death this weekend, though. I got to meet two of the drivers, both of whom spun out. One of whom spun out on the pace lap. He didn't even start the race. And the other one crashed like 40 laps in. So Scott McLaughlin and Kyle Larson. My apologies. I appeared to be bad luck this weekend. But regardless, White Sox coming off some pretty good series these past couple weeks. Took 2 or 3 against Seattle. Probably should have swept that series too if it wasn't for the bullpen melting down. And then another very winnable series against the Mets. That was another one I felt like they probably should have won that series. But cap it off with a nice victory yesterday. So that's good to see. So we got a lot to talk about this week. Apologies, the show's a day late. We kind of lost track of time, if I'm being honest. Got into work on Tuesday thinking it was a Monday. And, you know, it happens when you're drinking all weekend at the Indy 500. Shit happens. So let's get right into it. Now, a lot of people have been talking about, obviously the White Sox kind of had an offensive explosion yesterday. And now they're getting some of these guys healthy. You got Mike Tauchman back in the lineup. You got Slater back in the lineup. Both of them contributing immediately. They each hit homers. Andrew Benintendi's back. Kind of a slow start. Here's some people chirping about him on Twitter. But he had a good day yesterday. Drove in 5 RBIs. Hit a homer as well. You're starting to see now this White Sox lineup is creeping closer to being full of league average hitters, which would have sounded crazy a year ago. I mean, if they can get everyone fully healthy, now Rojas is starting to he's been struggling offensively a little bit, but if they can get him to heat up a little bit, this is a pretty serviceable lineup. I mean, this team can hang in some of these games. The problem is he's got to get more consistent run support, especially with how bad the bullpen has been. And I heard an interesting theory this week, and I kind of agreed with it. And, you know, it's something that we saw Rick Hahn do a lot. It's where, you know, he'd sign these veteran relievers or bring in these veteran relievers, like Tyler Clippard would be a perfect example of one. And Tyler Clippard was brought in on a team that really was not contending, no business contending. But you have that veteran reliever back there. One, it helps you early in the season, like holding on, winning some of these games. And then two, it's a guy you can flip easily at the deadline, which is what they did. And you didn't really see that this year with the White Sox. It's kind of a bare bones operation still in that bullpen. They've been kind of throwing stuff at the wall, seeing if it'll stick to this point. And, you know, right now they got the most blown leads in baseball. But that's an encouraging sign regardless. I mean, the blown leads obviously aren't. But this is why, you know, we talked about last week. The record's kind of similar to where they were at this point last year. But the team is significantly better because unlike last year, while they're losing a lot of these games still, they're competitive in all these games. They're a lot closer. The fact that they're blowing all these leads means that they have leads in the first place and they're in these games. So they are taking a step in the right direction. Offensively, it's been inconsistent, but we've seen spurts, right? Or a burst of offensive production here and there. Just got to get a little bit more consistency. I think having a lot of these veterans that they signed to help kind of stabilize this lineup have helped. Obviously, Miguel Vargas getting a lot of attention. There's one guy, though, I do want to get into that I think deserves a little bit more attention, and he's kind of an interesting player. But let's talk a little bit about Lenyn Sosa. So on the season, you know, his numbers overall don't look great, but he kind of heated up. Now, so last year, 113 plate appearances. He slashed 373, 398, 5.666 in the final month of the season. And then he also hit really well in the Venezuelan Winter League over the summer. He batted 392 there with 9 homers. So it looked like he was kind of starting to find something at the plate. Now, if you look at his numbers right now, he's pedestrian. Like he's got a 692 OPS, which, you know, not great. You want to be around 800 in the OPS department, but he's starting to heat up recently. You see the numbers on the screen here. In his last 7 games, he's hitting 321, 500 slugging percentage. At last 15 games, he's hitting 340, with a 352 OBP. Now, most of that's coming from the batting average because he hardly ever walks, and that's something we get to a second. But look at that slugging percentage, 528 slugging percentage. Now, he's really kind of been a fixture of this lineup as of the strikeout rate as well is still relatively a little bit higher than where you'd like to see it. So his long-term future is interesting. I think he's been hitting the ball a lot better than people have given him credit for. He had an RBI yesterday against the Mets. I'm very excited about the way it's trending offensively for Sosa because heading into the season, there's kind of a lot of questions whether he was even going to make the team. Now he's out of minor league options, so that kind of gave him an edge in that battle for that second base / third base spot because there's a lot of guys competing for very few infield positions in camp. He kind of had the edge because the White Sox would have had to place him on waivers if they let him go, so that gave him a bit of an advantage. But he's he's rewarding their faith. And he got off to a slow start, but he was hitting the ball hard and just not getting reward for it. Now we're starting to see him get rewarded for that. So you get Lenyn Sosa hitting well, and this offense has a whole different shape. Now, the defense is still a little concerning. We mentioned the errors. Now, part of the error, you see his range here. He showcased some pretty good range. A lot of it for me is just like mental. He makes a lot of stupid mistakes in the field. So I don't know if he's your future long-term second baseman, but assuming Chase Mydroff continues playing like he is, you would imagine he's a long-term fixture of that infield. Sosa could be a piece of this team moving forward that I could see as a nice little bench piece. He's versatile. He can play multiple different positions, and he hits really well. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see watching him move forward, but you look at the offense improving. Lenyn Sosa is a guy that hasn't really been talked about nearly as much as he should be, in my opinion, because he has been hitting the ball hard all season. And this is really something that dates back to last September. He's been hitting the ball hard, and it's continued. He's clearly found something. So that is good to see. All right, let's go to the one everyone's talking about right now. You probably heard about this guy before. You've heard about the stupid hand thing. They talk about it all the time. You know what? I'm going to pile onto the bandwagon. We're going to talk about it a little bit too. Miguel Vargas. And he looks every day. That trade is looking better and better. Now, let's be honest here. When last year, when he was struggling, things kind of looked bad. Now, I remember at the time I was saying I didn't want to put too much stock into his struggles because, like, look, he was coming from a World Series contending team, right? Top 100 prospect. He's on an exciting team with Shohei and Freddie and Mookie Betts. So yeah, you're probably excited to be in LA. Then he gets traded to Chicago, literally the worst team in baseball, on track to be the worst team in history of baseball when he got there. Not only so that's kind of a shock for any young guy. He's gonna have to move. I'm sure he didn't expect to be traded. I imagine the confidence probably affected, and he started struggling last year. And so the White Sox, I think they saw some changes they wanted to make. Actually, I know they said they saw some changes. This is according to Ryan Fuller. So this offseason, they saw changes they wanted to make. They didn't want to overwhelm them, so they waited the offseason to try and make it. Obviously, he bulked up, put on 20 pounds of muscle. That you've probably heard that before. And then he started the season. He was still kind of struggling a little bit, and then he made this hand changement. So you see the hand changement here. There's a breakdown MLB Network had the other day. Now, interesting, in a Sox Optimist, actually, on White Sox Twitter, he had a good post, too. You look at that way, his hands, they're a little bit higher here in the May side. They kind of were like that when he was in the minor leagues as well. When he was hitting really well in the minor leagues, there's some old photos of him, and they were kind of like that as a first. So for whatever reason, in the majors, he kind of lowered him a bit, but they made that tweak, and it really flipped the switch for him. I mean, you take a look at the numbers here. Also, courtesy MLB Network, they had a really good breakdown of this, but, you look at his first 64 games with the White Sox, 111 batting average, 2 homers, 26% strikeout rate, the OPS at 406. Last 31 games, hitting .316 with 8 homers. That strikeout rate, too, down from 26% to 12%, and a 989 OPS. That's not just good, that is elite. You'll love to see it. You really love, I mean, that trade, because we're not even talking about, he was obviously the headliner of that trade, but there's some other guys in the minor leagues that were really tearing it up too. Now, I think why I look bad at the time, because it was just like the optics of it. You traded Fetty with that as well, and then we got a guy that was, really, really bad the first 45 games. So a lot of White Sox fans understandably frustrated, but baseball's a funny game, man. You got to be patient sometimes with these guys, and the patience appears to be paying off. Now, defensively, it's going to be interesting to see where they put him. I think he is he showed he can be a good defender at third. He's made some during that Crosstown series, he made some really nice plays at the hot corner. But I don't think he's I think he can play third. I don't think he's a good defensive third baseman, though. And the numbers would kind of reflect that. Now, we got Southside Deech in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Deech. He goes, I joked about adding Ryan Fuller, expecting him to be another Bannister, but holy hell, people may not like Getz, but the guys he's brought in on staff, no ball. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. And this is something we talked about all offseason. They were starting to lay the foundation. You might not like a lot of the moves Getz made, and I didn't love some of the trades that, he made initially. But there's no denying he's brought in a lot of smart people. Although big critique when Chris Getz was hired was you should have went with someone outside of the organization. Once again, we went with someone inside the organization. And I think Getz is aware of that, and he saw the flaws they had working inside this organization. And so that's exactly what he did. He went in, and he brought in a lot of smart people from outside the organization, and Fuller being one of them. I mean, you saw Fuller. He worked with Colson Montgomery the other week. They took him to Arizona. He flew down there, spent some time with Colson. Colson's back in AAA. He looks like a whole new player. So, we saw it here with Vargas, too. He looks a lot more comfortable. He's confident now, too. You just saw him chirping in that Cubs series with the third base coach. He pimps a home run the other day in New York. I mean, he looks more confident on the base pass. And, I love the fact that he's cut down on his strikeout rate, too. He looks a lot more disciplined at the plate. Now, this is the thing I did want to talk about. So this is what's going to be interesting moving forward. And I think, you can almost make the argument, given some of the guys they got, with Jacob Gonzalez starting to heat, his former first-round pick from 2023, Jacob Gonzalez, he's starting to figure things out right now in the minor leagues. He's starting to heat up a little bit. You got Montgomery starting to find his footing. Maedroff, obviously, he looks like he's going to be a staple of the middle infield. I don't know where they're going to put him, but you got a lot of different options in the infield. So I don't think Vargas maybe necessarily sticks at third base. He might be he might be the first baseman moving forward. Because, if you look at these, it's kind of a little bit small here, but his stat cast out's above average. Now, obviously, out above average Adrian Houser. They brought him in to kind of help this bullpen that had been struggling, right? They, the most blown saves in the MLB. They had the fourth highest ERA the day that Houser was signed. It's been ugly. It's been ugly. And part of that is, Martin Perez gets hurt. They need someone that can eat innings. They're trying this opener strategy for a little bit with some of the starters. But they just needed some starters to go deeper into games because they only got they don't have a ton of bullets in that bullpen. It's tough. I almost felt bad for Will Venable that game against the Mets the other day. Because there's only so many guys you can bring in. Like Mike Vassell, we've said it before. I think Steven Wilson's a guy I trust. Cam Boozer, but even Boozer, is not a great option. I trust him, compared to the other options we have, but it's not great. And then Mike Vassell. But all three of those guys, they're all kind of flawed. I wouldn't call any of them elite or relievers by any means. So, if you get these leads in games, you really don't want to have the bullpen having to cover more than 3 innings, right? Especially if it's consistent basis, and you're having to stretch these guys out. So they needed someone to bring in to eat innings. So enter Adrian Houser, who I think was most famous. If you remember, I think he threw up on the mound during his time in Milwaukee. But Houser, I was not too excited over this signing. Just kind of looking at some of the stuff he'd done, I was like, okay, I get it. I think it's a good flyer to take. But he's really overexceeded expectations. Look at his first two starts here. Now, Seattle, that first start, it was kind of cold, rain-soaked night. Hitting conditions weren't good. But, gripping conditions with the baseball weren't good either. He threw 6 innings, only allowed 2 hits, no runs. He did allow 3 walks, but he struck out 2, faced 21 batters. And, look at the strike. He threw 90 pitches, 56 of them for strikes. Followed that up against the Mets. Another good offense. These are 2 pretty potent offenses. Weather was a lot nicer in New York. Once again, Houser shoves, right? 6 strikeouts, pounding the strike zone too. 99 pitches, threw 61 of them for strikes, only 1 walk. Once again, no earned runs, 3 hits allowed. Now, do I think this is sustainable? No. But there is some things to like about Houser. Now, one thing that he does really well, and this is especially beneficial when you're in a hitter-friendly park like Chicago, he throws a lot of ground balls, right? So he is a very high ground ball rate, which is good. We saw that these other 2 games, he induced 9 ground balls against the Mets, 8 against Seattle. So that's encouraging to see. Now, with those 12 scoreless innings, a little fun fact, Houser, he matched Johnny Cueto in 2022 mark for the longest scoreless inning streak to begin a White Sox career. So he's tied with Cueto at 12 innings. The longest streak right now is at Ken Britt, 1976. He had 17 innings. Jack McDowell in 1987, also ahead of him with 13 innings. And Cisco James in 1967 had 12 1/3 innings. So only 4 pitchers to come in with the wear White Sox uniform and throw that many scoreless innings to start their debut. Now, I think the White Sox, as much as he's helping the bullpen right now, again, I think you have to be a little bit cautious with the results. I don't know how. I don't think he's this guy. Obviously, 12 shutout in it. That's hard to replicate. I don't think he's going to be looking like this ace type this long moving forward, to be honest. Now, I think he could be, he's going to be a serviceable starter moving forward. But he's coming off a season where, he kind of got knocked around a lot in New York. So he posted a 5.84 ERA. Opponents hit 272 against him. And he also had the lowest strikeout rate of his career. Before he got signed by the White Sox, he was kind of getting batted around in AAA a little bit too. He had a 5.03 ERA and 39.1 innings of work. But he did strike out 22.8% of batters, which is very good. And again, going back to that ground ball rate, 57.3% ground ball rate. So he does get a lot of grounders, which is good. There's some defensive concerns, not as much as last year. I think they're much better positioned last year. We go back to, Deech's point about bringing in smart people. Walker McKibben, I think it's really helped the defense because are the defenders significantly better? No, but it seems like they're positioned a lot better. And that's kind of what he was brought in to do. So it goes back to Getz bringing in smart people. I think the White Sox are smart, and they might be thinking this. But Houser, he keeps this up and has a couple more good short. I would cash in and try and trade him immediately. Sell high. Now he's going to have a couple more starts, obviously, and I get you bringing him in to help the bullpen, but cash in while you can. And, you're paying him $135 million. Get someone else to pay that contract and get a prospect or two for him if he keeps this up another 2 games. I think that he's a guy that, could be a piece he can flip at the deadline if he keeps this up. Because, again, his overall numbers, like, we've kind of seen what he is at this point in his career. Career 4.21 ERA, which is average. That's not bad. That's a respectable ERA for a starter, and that's over 600. You kind of know what he is. He's not going to be this ace, I think, moving forward, and he is playing in a hitter-friendly park in Chicago. So I'd cash in as soon as we can. But Houser, good to see. It was a shame they could not get that win for him in that second game against the Mets because he was dealing that game. Unfortunately, in a pitcher's duel, White Sox came out on the wrong end of it. Let's talk about Andrew Vaughn. We talked about a little bit at the end of last week's show, simply because we were saying, like, hey, what are they going to do? And my theory was, hey, when Elko comes up, if he continues to struggle, I mean, there's a chance we might not see him with the team by the end of the year. Now, I didn't think it would come this quickly, and I also didn't think they'd DFA Elko in the process because we knew all these guys were coming back. We knew that it appears that Getz really likes people that are versatile. Andrew Vaughn is not that versatile. We saw him play the outfield. Don't need to see him play the outfield again. He's a true first baseman. So is Elko. But let's be honest. I think a lot of the outrage around Elko getting sent down justified a bit of overreaction. Do I think Elko is the savior of this team? No. If I'm being honest, I think his future, he projects to me a little bit more like a Daniel Polka type. Fun player. Hits the ball hard. When he makes contact, that ball goes far. But he strikes out a little bit too much for my liking. And he was a better defender than Vaughn. He didn't really do anything else. So if you got Miguel Vargas, who can play first base and is also raking, you can play multiple other positions, that's who you're probably going to want to go with. Now, I think I would have been, I don't think that, let me rephrase this. While I don't think Tim Elko would have projected to be some star moving forward, I do think he got a raw deal. He had nothing to prove in AAA. He has shown he can hit AAA pitching. And I think he's handled all of that really well. I mean, you see him go back down to Charlotte. He was still, there's a photo of him the next day. He was still smiling. Looks like he still has a good attitude. He's putting his work in. I do respect that. But he's already 26. And so it's let's find out what we have at this point. Let's know for sure what we have in Tim Elko. I would have just given him the rest of the season. And if he struggled, okay. We've gotten 150 at-bats under his belt in the major leagues. We kind of have an idea he's not the guy. Or, hey, we think he could be interesting. Let's run it back another year. Vaughn, you already know what he is. You see the numbers on the screen here. I mean, he's got a negative WAR for his career. And 97 OPS plus. That's not great. Look, I think he has been an effective run producer. 77 home runs, not terrible. 293 RBIs in his career, not terrible. But you look at this year, it's just the final straw. Negative 1.6 WAR this year, hitting 189, hardly any pop, 5 homers. I mean, you look at the slugging percentage, 314, a 531 OPS. That's just not going to cut. So I understand why they sent him down. And I think what the signals is, they don't view Elko as a part of the future. So I know a lot of fans are upset about that. Personally, I would have liked to see him I think he got done a little dirty. I would have rather see him play the full season, but I think it signals White Sox, hey, we're not going to waste our time doing that. We already know he's not going to be part of the future. We don't like his game. But that's what that said to me. So I do think that was interesting. But I do think, we go back to Sosa and Vargas earlier. I think those two you're going to see in a little bit of a rotation at first base. I think they're going to be handling the first base duties moving forward. And also help, you got Teal that's been hitting really well in the minor leagues. I think I saw he has a 33 game on base streak or something ridiculous like that. You might see him get called up soon. They just traded Matt Dice to try and clear up some space. They got an outfielder from Tampa Bay. He's 25 years old, trying to improve the outfield depth a little bit. That just could be preparing for it. They make some trades during the deadline. Specifically Luis Robert drawing some interest. Now I heard Luis Robert, he said, I don't think any team's going to want to take a chance on me given the way he's been playing. I disagree a little bit. We talked about this last week. He's got the tools where I think a team is going to take a chance on him. They sent down Brooks Baldwin. Since he's been in the minors, though, if you take a look at it, they're having to play a lot of outfield, specifically center field, which is kind of intriguing for me. Hey, maybe they're anticipating moving Luis Robert. They want Baldwin to fill that spot. Or Benintendi, the way he's been hitting recently. Now, his overall numbers this season don't look great, but there's been a lot of injuries. He hasn't really had when he's gotten into a rhythm, like we saw early this season, got off to a really hot start. And I think now, hopefully yesterday's game where he had those 5 RBIs, that kind of kickstarts him back into gear. He starts heating up. Maybe you see him getting traded too. Mike Talkman, man, he's another guy. And I almost don't want him to trade all these guys because it's been a fun team to watch. Like, this team is like, I said it before the season, this team, like, I think is going to be like the 2018 White Sox, and they remind me a lot of them. This is like the Ricky's boys don't quit type team. They play the game hard. They're in a lot of these games. They are a fun team to watch. So I almost don't want the deadline to come, like, because they start shipping off all these guys, which they should do. It'd be the smart move to do, just as a fan, selfishly watching the product. I mean, like, it's kind of nice having a team that you feel like can hang in almost every game. Now, I don't expect them to win every game, but every game I do expect to be semi-competitive. And they showed that against a very good World Series capable Mets team. And Talkman even talked about it after the game. That was a big confidence booster for him. You're heading into a getaway day. You just walloped a World Series caliber team, and you were in all 3 of those games. That's good. That's a nice little confidence boost. This team, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This team can win 60 games this year. And that would be such a huge improvement. Such a huge improvement. If they win 60 games, that'd be awesome. It'd be nice to get, starting pitching's been still pretty solid for the most part. Jonathan Cannon kind of had a rough outing the other day, but you know what? He still managed to eat some innings for him, despite getting roughed up. And I respect that. Cannon's really growing on me. Shane Smith had his kind of first bad start, and it was ironic because the first start he got some run support, so he couldn't earn that win. A little disappointing there, but man, this team's trending in the right direction. And this team is trending in the right direction. And if you can't see it, start watching the games because they're a lot more fun. They're a lot more fun. They're not good, but they are fun. It's a fun bad team. So that's nice. It's nice to see. I'm glad we're seeing steps in the right direction. Sosa's heating up. Vargas is heating up. Talkman's heating up. Benintendi looks like he's heating up. Starting to come together, Pepper. You love to see it. Hey, we're only, what is it? I think 12 games out of a wild card spot right now. 18, maybe? I have to look. Playoffs? No, I'm kidding. We're not going to the playoffs, but it'd be kind of fun. Be kind of fun to think about. Maybe in a few years. You can see the outline, the semblance of a competitive team in the not too distant future. I see the vision. You make a couple trades, free up some money. God willing, the Ishbas are willing to spend. I know Jerry's the one, still controlling the team, but, maybe having a little bit of that firepower back there. Maybe we get some free agents and we get this baby turned around and we're rooting for a winner in a few years. And we don't have to keep talking about being fun, bad, and hey, 60 games, let's go. We won 60 games. Fan base wants to celebrate the team winning 60 games, but that's where we're at this point. So what are you going to do? Tice getting traded, I think, obviously you're clearing up that log jam at catcher. I think Corey Lee, he deserved a little bit of extended runway. He's been slowly improving every year. His offense getting a little bit better. I do think long-term, he's kind of a backup catcher moving forward. I don't even know what his future with the team is because you would imagine it's going to be Caro and Teal. And Teal looks really, really good in AAA. I think the plan for Teal, I wouldn't be surprised if they just give him a full season in the minor leagues to really help improve his catching. He played a little bit. He played some first base too with the Red Sox. But I think they just want to give him a full season at catcher, make sure he's fully ironed out down there. Maybe he gets a call up late September. It doesn't really make any sense for them to rotate around 3 catchers in that rotation though. So I think, Dice, I thought was a very productive player for this team. I thought he was a valuable member of this team just because, veteran handling that young pitching staff. He worked good at bats. There wasn't a lot of power, but he did get on base a lot. So he was very productive in his brief time there. Glad the White Sox were able to get something back. It made sense. So, you had to get someone out there. If you're able to get anything in return, you're bolstering that off-field depth, might as well go for it. So overall, very interesting week in White Sox baseball. Figures they sent down Vaughn literally like as soon as the last week's episode was recorded. So we're kind of hinting at, hey, something could be happening here just because we got all these guys coming back. I didn't expect it to be that quickly. And I also didn't expect them to send down Tim Elko at the same time. So that was a little bit surprising as well. That's all we have for you. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you're tuning in every week. Usually we are Wednesdays at noon. You can follow us at Pinwheels Pod on X. You can follow me at Mitch Kaminski 99, and make sure you're reading Sports Mockery, sportsmockery.com for all the latest White Sox news throughout the week. We also got Bears coverage for you, Bulls, Blackhawks, you name it. They probably got it on there. So make sure you're checking them out and thank you to Sports Mockery for sponsoring this show. All right, that's all we got for you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your week.